Okay, welcome to the 5D Academy of Higher Consciousness. I'm Zarathustra, broadcasting live from Los Angeles. The topic of the day, we're going to talk about setting up intentions, thoughts create reality, and focus. And this is the new age. It's new age. It's the pseudo spirituality. This is what's happening right now. Hold on a second. I'm sorry. Amir, do you want to? I apologize. Amir, you sent me a message that are regarding our.
Yes, you need to start it.
Well, I thought I did. Can you do it? Did? Yeah, it is live. It's happening right now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, let's. Okay, Amir, I'm gonna start again so you can edit this part. So, the topic we're going to be talking about is intention, thoughts create reality, and focus. And in the new age, the new system of teaching spirituality and self-realization, this is a hot topic right now. And there are a lot of different schools of thoughts and philosophy and spirituality that are very much focused on this. And they talk about it a lot. It's the hot ticket. That's what's going on right now. And then if you get together and you get into these spiritual communities and groups, meditations, almost everybody starts with let's set up intention and blah, 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 and everything goes from there. So I'm going to put some light on this and we're going to be talking about it, and we'll get into the details and dissecting it. What this is, does it work, or we're wasting our time? And I'll go through everything with you. For the moment, as always, we're just going to do a 15-minute meditation, 20-minute meditation. We'll see how far meditation goes. So just relax, sit back. Don't really try to meditate or not meditate. Just allow yourself, allow your body, allow your mind, your emotions to settle into this moment without trying to do anything. A forced meditation is not of any value. So just relax into what is in this moment. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and turn your mind inwards. Turn your attention inwards. Look for the source of your thoughts. Where do the thoughts come from? So when you turn your attention inwards, what happens is you're looking within, and you can trace your thoughts to where they come from. As you look at them, and this doesn't take any energy, it doesn't take any effort. It's just simply a shift of your attention. You're putting your attention to the source of your thoughts. Where do they come from? And you look. And if you do it right, you will fall into silence. If you trace back your thoughts to their origin, the thoughts come from a silent place. Because they're basically non-existing. They're illusions. They're objects traveling into space. They appear to have some substance, but there's nothing into them. And look inside for a moment. and fall into that place and see what happens. And all of a sudden, everything becomes quiet. And you can go into a deep meditative state without trying. You're simply here, you're in meditation. Everything becomes quiet and the story disappears. Hang out in this space, stay in your center. Slowly come back. Slowly come back. And you can see it's easy to fall into your natural state. Your natural state is silence. And when you get involved and you forget that, with you get involved with the mind activities, uh, then it's exhausting. It takes energy because you're not in your natural state. And without noticing it, it's work, because you get identified with this process in the head of the story. What's going on? What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen in the world? What's the future going to be? Um, I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I lost it. I made mistakes. Blah 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 blah. So a story keeps going on and on and on. So basically, when you disconnect from that and come back to your natural state, everything's like flat, everything's quiet, everything settles, and you come back to your center. And it feels really good. You feel very balanced and you're happy. It's quiet. So, and then when we identify with the story of the world or story of ourselves, then it's uncomfortable. But we've been doing it for so long, so we are used to that. We think that's how it needs to be. We think that if we're not worried, then something's wrong. If you're not concerned, if you're not involved, then you're not good. You're not doing your work. You're indifferent. You don't care. So guilt comes. But on the contrary, it's the other way around. So through awareness and realization and recognition of the false state of being, you restore that and you come back into your natural state, which is peace, tranquility, bliss. Once you realize it, it's not very difficult, and you allow yourself to be in this place, and you're not feeling guilty. A lot of people think that if they're silent, they're in this place, something's wrong, and they feel guilty about it. So they have to stress, they have to worry, they have to try to fix the world all the time. And they suffer because it's a task that you cannot accomplish. So that leads us to the New Age, the pseudo spirituality, and today's teachings about the topic that we're talking about is that many different spiritual circles, especially on the younger groups, it starts with let's sit together and meditate and set up intention. So we're talking about intention, we're talking about thoughts creating reality, and focus on positive, because if you don't, then you're not going to get what you want. So that's what's going on right now out there. And it's very interesting to me because I've come across this. I do come across it quite often, and I come across it with some very intelligent people who are very sincere spiritual seekers and practitioners. But when I try to explain this to them, despite the fact that this way of thinking or this way of looking at things doesn't work, and repeatedly they fail, despite the fact of that, they're completely unavailable to look at it differently or adopt a new way of being, which is okay. I see that. I see the divine planning and how they're hypnotized. But that's a part of it. That's a part of the deal. Now, let's say there's nothing wrong with a group to sit together or an individual to set up their intention. Okay, so let's all sit together in a circle and hold hands and have the intention. It's great. What is your intention? World peace, happiness, no wars, no conflicts. We want everyone to live in harmony with each other. This is when we save the planet, have a healthy mental, emotional life, harmonious. But is this what's going on? Is that the reality of life? Is that what we're experiencing? Maybe individually you were experiencing harmony, but when you go deeper into the nature of this dimension is built on duality. So wherever there's goodness, there equally is going to be evil. Wherever there's dark, there's going to be light. Everything comes together in this dimension as the two opposites. It's the yin and yang symbol. They both come together. There's never been a coin minted, created, that it's one-sided. All coins have two sides. Well, you can print same image on both sides, but there's still a coin has two sides. Every face also has a back of a head. You don't have two faces on both sides. So it's got its opposite. It's like there's the male and there's the female. There's the man and the woman. So this is how it's structured in the third dimensional world. That's how it is. And wherever there is ignorance, there's also wisdom. So, and when they constructed the universe and this dimension, and came the man, came the human being, and the thoughts came with it, and the thinking process, not the mind is created and the mind is going all over the place and does its thing, and as a result getting identified with it and brings suffering. in the meantime, existence created the guru. It created the sage. Excuse me. The awakened one was created too, to counterbalance that, because you cannot create one part without the other. They both come together. You can see it, life and death, birth, the birth of a new baby and the death of an old person, or the person not old, young, whatever. You're born, you die. It's continuously happening. Both opposites are equally there, and it's happening. So back to the intention, we're setting up an intention for something we want, whether it's collectively or individually, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with it, but is it gonna happen? Maybe. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. And when it does happen, we come and pat ourselves on the shoulder, on the back, and saying, okay, it was me. Look at me. I'm powerful. I got all the power. I can set up intention and either accomplish it, or it happens because I'm using the power of the mind to create something. So that's what we do. But what about all these thousands of other times that we set the intention on something, a task or whatever it is, and it just doesn't happen, or we lost interest, or we got derailed, or something happened and it's not going in that direction? How come we don't pay much attention to that part of it, and all the attention is on when it does happen? So if really it's working, or that's the way to go, then we need to also look at the other part of it too. We can't just look at one part and completely be ignorant to the other part of it. So that's something to consider. Then we're talking about this other way of thinking, which is very new, because this is very attractive. This is, in a way, gives you the illusion of empowering you. You feel empowered by going into way of thinking of thoughts create reality. And it's wonderful for business. It's very good to sell this. It's it's a hot ticket item of teaching people that the way they think, if you think whatever, okay, I want to own a home, I want to have a family, or whatever it is, I want to have a better job, I want to have more money, I want to find my love of life, whatever it is, and I keep thinking that, and I keep visualizing it, then if I do it correctly and go to enough courses and keep practicing it regularly and make notes and put all these notes around the house, that when I go to the kitchen, I want to open my refrigerator, and all of a sudden there is a note there of that positive thinking, then it will manifest, it will happen. So, and that's what they're teaching to a lot of people. They're telling people to do that. So, and what that comes with is that now you have to activate your mind, and you have to keep thinking of something. So you're thinking of an object of your desire, because you're desiring something, and you want to get something. So that thing is an object because you want to acquire it. And that comes with a number of different things. A, that you're not complete as you are, the way you are. So that indicates that you're not whole, you're not complete, you're not good enough. There's a number of different things missing in you, and you have to go and acquire these objects to complete you. So that's number one. Two is that you're activating your mind. You're giving the mind more power. You're powering it up. And this is the same mind that drives you crazy. This is the same mind that always creates issues for you because it's dwelling in the past or it's worried about the future. So now you're empowering this thing called mind, and you're becoming a slave to it because it's been driving you crazy all of your life and it's been the source of a lot of misery. Now you're empowering it. You understand? Is this making any sense? Yeah? Yeah, good. So why would I want to empower my enemy? Why would I empower an element that is making me suffer and worry and the mind that takes me to these places that creates with all these thoughts that I'm not good enough, I don't love myself, I'm not worthy. Why would I want to empower this? Or going to the past, continuously thinking about past events, mistakes, things have happened, whatever has happened. I've done something good or bad, or I've been left out, I've been dumped, rejected, and give it more power and keep dwelling in the past, or going into the future and continuously being worried about what's going to happen, or fantasizing about what I would like to happen. Something happens to makes me happy. So basically, again, it just comes back to this not being complete and not being whole, not being good enough, basically. So, or manipulating, it's a system of trying to manipulate things, because I'm trying to use the power of the mind by thinking positive or thinking of about an object or a situation that I want to happen continuously to manipulate existence to go my way. Basically, you wanted things to go your way. I mean, everybody wants things to go their way. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that, of wanting things to go your way. Don't take me wrong. I don't want you to feel guilty that you want things to go your way. That's not a bad thing or a wrong thing, but it's just empowering this phenomena called mind. And now you're becoming the slave, because it's a horrible master and a wonderful slave. Once you master the mind, it's a wonderful tool to use it. You can do amazing things with it. But if you lose the reins and it becomes the master that most of us, all of our lives, the mind's been ruling us, then it creates a lot of suffering. A lot of suffering. So then, and I'll talk more in details about all these things. And the next thing is focus. Okay, So I sometimes I've been around people like, let's say I feel a little bit like I'm coming down with a cold or something, and I say, oh, I feel like I'm coming down with a cold, and I have these people jump in there and saying, no, 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 Zarathustra, don't say that, don't say that. Because if you say that, it's going to manifest and you're going to have a cold. So now continuously you're uncomfortable and you cannot say, hey, I feel like I'm coming down with a cold, because now your attention is continuously on what to say. So you have to say positive stuff. Because if you say something negative, then that's going to manifest. But if you say the positive stuff, that's what's going to manifest. It's going to be positive. And now you're activating, you're continuously thinking about saying positive, being positive. Now, I'm not talking about not being positive or negative. Yes, it's good to have your life and being positive, and having a positive outlook to life. And that's not what I'm referring to, because we all know what it's like to be around people who are negative. I mean, I've had my share of living with or being around people who are negative, and it's very draining and not comfortable. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is continuously watching what you're saying and not saying anything negative, that if you say something negative, it's going to manifest itself and happen. And all of these three things we talked about, it's delusional and way, way far away from the truth of what is. None of them are going to take you to freedom and help you become awakened completely. Actually, it puts you more into sleep, because all these three things, which all the same thing pretty much, is empowering the illusion of separation. It's creating this feel that we all have, that we are individual entities, separated from the source, separated from the whole, capable of creating things, basically objects of our desires. We're capable of creating them by the power of our thoughts. So it's reinforcing this sense of separation, reinforcing this sense that I'm an individual entity, capable, having my own free will, and I can do this and I can do that. It reinforces that. So you remain a person instead of being totality, instead of being that. So by that way of thinking or being, or that mentality, it reinforces the illusion of separation. As the awareness comes and you start to identify these things, you start to realize that you're not an individual entity capable of creating things as an individual. As you start to realize that, and you fall into acceptance of what is, and fall into this place of just pure being and surrendering to what is, as that starts to sink in and you realize that, space opens up from this contraction that you're continuously trying to have an intention to improve things, or an intention to get what you want, or you're trying to use the power of mind to manipulate things to go your way, and controlling things. Basically, it's control, as well as really focusing on positive or focusing on negative or whatever that is. You are pulling back. You're just, from hands on, you're just going into just pushing back and relaxing. You're kicking back. You're just going into this mode. You shifted your position. Again, rather than being on top of it, constantly being in control, you're just kind of kicking back. You shift it. And what happens, what is this shift you're kicking back is, as I mentioned, accepting of what is, accepting of whatever is happening in your life, in the world, in your surrounding, accepting it, and surrendering to that which is running the world, that which makes this planet to turn around itself and turn around the sun. You're surrendering to that which turns the day into night and night to day. Surrendering to that intelligence that functions your body and does a million different functioning without you knowing anything about it. Surrendering to that which also operates all the in the animal kingdom and vegetable kingdom, operating them. You're surrendering to that. So you're shifting your position. What happens is space opens up. So from here, that's very contracted, you are pulling back to a relaxed mode, and all of a sudden space starts to open. And in that opening of space, wisdom starts to come in. Wisdom pours in you. And the more this function is happening, and it kind of appears like you're doing it, but you're not even doing that anyway, but as if this transaction is placing, which is the grace, only happens through the grace. Grace is coming to your life, or grace is appearing and showing itself to you, whether it's in the form of your teacher, or it's happening as a natural process of life, or you're reading a book, or you went to a workshop, or you had an accident and you're going to this realization. Whatever way it's happening, doesn't matter. And you're just surrendering to what is. In this opening of space, infinite possibilities become available. Anything can happen. And the magic of life begins to reveal itself to you. Magical things starts to happen. Incredible things that beyond your imagination begin to happen. The quality of your life begin to change. You start to realize that your quality of life have increased, and slowly it changes for better. It doesn't mean that, for example, you have found powers of manipulating to make more money or getting what you want. That doesn't mean, you still have to go to work and you still have to make your money. If you still have to take care of your kids or your home or whatever you do, you still have to continue doing what you're doing. That doesn't mean all of a sudden you're rich or all of a sudden you have no work, no responsibilities. No, but the quality of it changes because understanding has taken place, and your mind is becoming more quiet because you're not involved in it so much of trying to make things happen. You're allowing things to happen, and you may be in this a part of this function that it appears that you made something happen. So it happened through you and putting an effort into it. It appears to be that way. It could be that way too. It looks like, oh, because you put some effort in doing something, that thing happened. But yeah, you put effort into doing something that happened, but you did it from an effortless place. You did it from no mind, not from a place of controlling. And then you see, wow, how easy things come, how easy things are matching up. You see the wisdom in it. Even when things don't go your way, even things fall apart, you see like it always happens in perfection. And there's a wisdom in it that even when you don't get what you want and things don't go your way, you start to see the wisdom in it, because there is existence definitely knows what you need and what needs to be done. So you're surrendering to the power that knows you very well and better than you know yourself. You're surrendering to that which knows all your secrets, all your desires, consciously and unconsciously. It knows a lot better than you and I. So you're surrendering to it, so it provides. It does provide for you. And you see the miracle of life. It's very fascinating. It's very fascinating to get to that place in your spiritual growth, that to this point, to start seeing the rhythm, start seeing and touching this and recognizing it. And then you just become the observer. You're simply watching how things unfold, how things are being created and how things are being destroyed, both functioning of the same energy, creation and destruction, both happening by the same force. And then you see the wisdom in it. You may not understand it, but you see that there is wisdom in it. Something is very well aware of what it's doing. And life becomes more, your question starts to drop. You're not questioning things so much. And you begin to accept and surrender. And the mind becomes more quiet, more quiet. And as the mind becomes quiet, your heart opens up. And you start to feel the bliss and the joy of being alive and being in this body and being at this time in the world. And there may be there's sufferings, there's turmoil, there's all kinds of stories happening, but deep inside, you are the Buddha. You have a smile, you're sitting there while everyone's panicking and running around and banging their heads against the walls and falling down unconscious. You're just sitting there silent, quietly, and you have a smile and you feel the bliss. And you don't have to feel guilty because you feel that way, because you have come to wisdom. Don't think like if you come to that place means like you're not caring. You are. But what can you do? People around you are ignorant and they're in sleep. And you try to wake them up, but it's not your job. They wake up when they're ready. So sometimes you're trying to share this with them and they tell you you're crazy. You're not worried. How come you're not worried? You're so indifferent. You have no compassion. You have no feelings for other people. That doesn't mean that. Of course you do. But it's not your place to try to. You tried a little bit to wake them up. They're not ready to hear you. Is this making any sense to anybody? You have any questions? Yeah. Any comments, questions by anyone? Don't be shy. Don't be afraid of me. I'm not going to bite you. I'm going to just take a look at, see what's going on YouTube. And if we have any questions there on our viewers on YouTube. Nothing here. Cool. I mean, those of you who are new with me and it's the first time, I pretty much communicate with our viewers on Zoom. It's difficult for me to communicate on different platforms. Sometimes there aren't many questions, so I can just check things out. But it's not very easy. So it's much easier if you go to my website, zarathustra.tv, and sign up at the academy. You go to, and then come to our system on Zoom, and then we can converse with each other. It's a lot easier for me. If you want to talk to me, you can either unmute yourself and ask me your question, or wave at me, or write something on the chat box, and then we communicate. Hi, Candace. Go ahead and yeah. All right.
I just want to thank you for your teaching. It's right on. It's very reassuring to me. You know, I try to watch so many things on YouTube, and it sounds really good for a while, and then they get into talking about how we can create our reality, and it just is I get flustered. So I like being reassured by you.
Well, yeah, and you know, it's first of all, I'm glad it sounds so good. This whole thing about it's so appealing because it brings you into this place that you are co-creator, you're partners with God, and it appears to be so empowering. This whole idea, oh wow, I am co-creator with God, and I'm gonna be in this partnership with God and save the planet and fix things on the planet. But mostly, quietly, I'm going to get whatever I want.
No, I like your teaching way better.
So if you look at it, underneath comes a selfish thing. First, I want to get everything I want in this co-creating with God. It's another trick by the ego, because it's always me. You know, as long as I get what I want, who gives a shit about anyone else? I mean, yeah, I'll pray for other people too, so I don't appear to be selfish. But first, let me get what I want. Examine it for yourself. Examine it for yourself. Don't believe what I'm telling you. Just pay attention to your own mind and see. If you go deep inside, you will see it's always you first. It's never someone else. It's always starts with you. Then it's maybe someone else, maybe whatever that is. It's never someone else. Down deep. Shadijan, you can unmute yourself.
Hi. I just have a question, and hopefully you could clarify it. You know how you say there's the mind, and then there's the grace? And sometimes it's like there's certain messages or wisdom that comes through, and at times there's a doubt, because then you think it's the mind, but then it might be a message or the grace coming through. So how do you differentiate between that? Like there's times that I know it's not the mind, because it's not the regular way of thinking.
Right.
That it could be the mind.
Right. Yeah, it's very difficult to explain it how, but somehow as you go forward, there's a knowing that you know the difference.
Yeah.
You know, it's
That's
very.
how it's feel. There's a knowing, but then sometimes, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult to say, because if I start explaining this, then it becomes very mindy. Okay, which voice is the mind? Which voice is God? Or the you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get it. I just wanted
right.
to see.
It's almost.
Sometimes I'm going crazy, but then I'm like, okay, well, maybe because you touched on it a little bit today. So anyway,
right.
I
Yeah.
get what you're saying. It's something that's hard to explain. Obviously, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like your deep knowing of things. Just you know something, and you just know it. There's no way you can explain it, but you just know things. Like, I was gonna buy this car. This is like 6 years ago when I bought my car, and there was all kinds of people were telling me that, oh, this car is gonna have problems. It's got air suspension. It's gonna be a nightmare. Blah 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 blah. It's gonna be costing you a lot of money to repair it. But down deep, I knew it's solid. But outside of all the evidence and all the logic and all the stories and everything that I read on the internet that don't buy this car, down deep, I just knew it from the moment I looked at it. I knew that this is solid. And I bought it. I mean, it took me a little bit of time. I hesitated a little bit. And I went and looked at other stuff. based on the recommendations of the experts. But then at the end, I went back and I bought that car. Somehow existence took me there. But I just knew it's not going to give me any problems or major problems. And it's been like this all of my life. And even the times that I really don't do what I know deep inside, and I don't follow it, and it turns to be a negative experience or disaster, I just know it. And the more you rely on it, the more stronger it gets, because the more you're trusting yourself or trusting the process, is knowing. Something inside you knows. It's always known. Now we're getting more tuned in. And sometimes you're hearing voices within yourself, and it's telling you something. So how do I distinguish that voice telling me something, don't do this or don't do that? It just comes. And how do I distinguish that from the mind? It's almost impossible to explain it. But when you get more tuned in, you already know. It's like, and these things. We're talking about something you already know, okay? I'm not teaching you or telling you something you don't know. How, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna mute you right now because there's a little bit of background sound. So, but then if you want to ask me questions, just unmute yourself, okay? So, how do I explain to a family member or a friend who is not interested, or they're always thinking very logical of everything about these things? Now, let's say you're talking to your husband, you're talking to your sister, you're talking to your mom, best friend, someone close to you that you love, and you're trying to, and they're not on the path, and you're trying to explain this to them, and it's impossible, because they just don't get it. They don't get it because it's not their experience, or they're not ready for it, so you can't explain it to them. And you're trying, and it's very frustrating because you see they're struggling, or they're suffering, or they're worried all the time, and you're trying to just say, look, it's not really, it's, look at this way, discover this way. And you can't. It just doesn't go in. So similarly, that you cannot explain your realization of your way of being and recognizing the intelligence and the wisdom that's operating the world, operating life, that you have come to this understanding, you have come to touch it. Similarly, that you cannot explain it to someone else. It's the same thing. That the voice you hear inside, you somehow come to understand and realize when it's mind and when it's God. You want to unmute yourself if you have something to say? Yeah.
No, I just wanted to say thank you. That makes sense.
Yeah,
I get it.
right. But again, you gotta. It takes time. It takes. I mean, you continuously have to come back to the teachings. For years and years, for me, it was the same thing. Sometimes I just go back and listen to Papaji. I go back, listen to, watch Ramana Maharishi's documentaries, go listen to other Advaita Vedanta teachers. Every once in a while, you just go and even though the understanding is here, it's still nice to listen to other teachers who are teaching this or read something. So it's not so much like it used to be for me in the past that I go on YouTube and it goes into bursts. Sometimes I get really obsessed or I get really into. And there was, for a while, I was listening to a lot of videos from Ramesh Balsekar, who teaches the same spirituality, same teachings. And it reinforces your understanding. So, like when Candace mentioned that, thank you, I have to come back here and listen to you, or I have to come back to the academy or watch some of your videos to reconfirm. It's totally natural. Don't feel like you didn't get it if you come back and listen again. It reinforces, because you have to understand it's thousands of years of conditioning, and it's your complete life from childhood that you've been conditioned on a false way of thinking and a false spirituality and false way of being. That existence or the system or civilization, all of your life has been conditioning you to be something you are not. So it's sort of become second nature. And then you come across this teaching which is a very small percentage of, first of all, in comparison to the 7 billion people on this planet. I really don't know how many people live on this planet anyway, but let's say they say it's a number to me. It doesn't matter, 7 billion or 5 million. It won't make any difference to me, because the vision that I have is just a few people. That's as far as I see them. But the rest is just numbers. But let's say there's 7 billion people live on this planet. There's a small percentage of them that have come to the world of spirit. They're spiritual seekers. The rest are mainstream and asleep. And among that small percentage of humanity that is interested in spirituality, a very, very small percentage of it is interested in 5D quantum awareness, is interested in what we're talking about. Very, very small. So you're kind of in a battle, in a way, I'm putting it in that. You're against the herd, The herd is going in that direction. Pseudo spirituality, New Age, is all teaching about setting up your intention, positive visualization, positive thinking, keep your focus, and use the mind to acquire it, because it's re-emphasizing the illusion that you are separated from the source. You're an individual entity capable of your own free will and capable of creating this reality, which continuously taking you away from what we're talking about. It makes you become a person separated. It makes you become a person disconnected. So you're fighting against that, because today's spirituality is not confirming your understanding. It's against your understanding. You're fighting against that too. Not only you're fighting against mainstream and sleepy people around you, but you're also fighting against what they're teaching, the mainstream of spirituality, I would call it. So a very, very small percentage come to this understanding. That's why existence does not produce a lot of enlightened people. That's why we don't have many Buddhas. That's why you don't have many Ramana Maharshis. You don't have many Papajis. It's a rare thing that existence produces, which is also by design. But one of them can transform, their presence transforms millions of people, or the presence, one of them balances the imbalance. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Who cares? Do your work and stay centered. And as you're doing that, your quality of life changes. Peace comes. And as you go slowly, slowly forward, you begin to be recognized by people around you. Not that you're seeking that, but it becomes clear that here is a wise woman. Here's a wise man. Here's a wise girl. That person has come to wisdom. You get the utter recognition. Not that I'm not saying you care for it, but it becomes apparent that there is wisdom there. But that's not our goal. But the goal is to come to inner peace, to become free. But it shows. People around you at one point notice that there's something happening. This person is different. This person has something that nobody else has. This person has come to inner freedom, inner happiness, inner peace. It will show itself. I mean, it's interesting because when I go into the spiritual market, I go to a conference or I go to spiritual communities and I see all these boys and girls and they're so confused with all these teachings. And a part of me feels bad, naturally, that how confused they are. Or how lost they are. But what to do? If you can help, you help. If the person is available and their ears comes up and they're ready to hear you, you help. Naturally. And if not, then you just, again, as a part of surrendering to what is. Surrendering to that they have to go through suffering. You know, when I see around my family or friends and how they're struggling, basically they're dealing with basic stuff and fear, worry about future, and so lost into the past, so lost into the world of mind, no awareness of their mind, their thoughts, no awareness of emotions come and go. They really view this body as the only thing there is. And I see that and I see their struggle. But what can I do? So that's my teaching of my challenge of surrendering to that. Being around people you love that are suffering, and you have to surrender to it and accept their suffering because that's their path. Because you can't do anything. They're not interested. They're not open to hearing you. They get angry. The moment you start saying anything like this, you can see from their reaction is anger or rejection to this teaching. It's bullshit to them. This is all bullshit. It's all meaningless. To them, I'm delusional, lost. It's like, look at it this way, like you have a bunch of roses, you got a garden and you got a bunch of roses in your garden, and they're just like baby roses. They haven't, they're forming. So they're not ready to become a rose yet. They still need like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Because, it's a bud. It's only a bud. And then you have to wait slowly, more sunshine, more water, more care. And then slowly, the bud starts to open up. What are you going to do? You can't force it. If you interfere, you just destroy it. You can't force it to become a fully grown rose. And yes, it's finally opening up and it's growing and looking beautiful, but you cannot force that process. And it's the same thing with mainstream people or people who haven't come to this understanding. There's nothing you can do about it. You just have to, that's our challenge. That's our teachings too. So once you come to the understanding and you settle into this understanding, then there's another challenge. You just have to surrender to that. the more you spend time in silence, the more in tune you become. I'm sure you have noticed this already, those of you who've been together for a while, that you're silent, you're quiet, you're focused. And you don't identify with the pendulum, the ups and downs. There's going to be ups and downs all the time. And you keep your attention on one pointedness, your one pointedness. You stay in this place. You're silent. You're still. You don't pay much attention to your own mental process. Your emotions come and go. Your body is changing. These are your affairs. And then the world is continuously is changing from one thing to another. And you're ignorant to that too. You don't identify with the world either. So you're just like staying really focused. And you get settled into this place. Everything else comes and goes, comes and goes. People come in your life, they go. Love affairs appear, they disappear. Friends appear, disappear. Enemies appear, disappear. Family comes, goes. Everything comes and goes. And you just stay in one place. You're just like, You don't go anywhere. You don't buy into any of it. You just stay in one place. And it gets deeper. You're sinking deeper within yourself. You're becoming more comfortable to what is the reality of the self, the truth of who you are. It becomes mightier. It becomes bigger. And you're becoming more in tune. You're becoming more sensitive. You begin to hear sounds. You notice things. Your vision gets bigger. You can see things. You can see events coming. You may call it you're becoming psychic. Whatever you want to name it, but you're tuning in. I mean, look at it from where you are now and a year ago or 2 years ago, 5 years ago. And those of you who've been doing the work, and look and see your intuitive knowing how it's changed, how much more tuned in you have become in comparison to 5 years ago, 2 years ago, a year ago. Things have changed. Your fear is starting to disappear. Your emotional ups and downs are becoming obvious to you. You're not a victim of it. You're slowly becoming free from the mind. When your mind goes crazy and all kinds of crazy thoughts are running through, you are able to easily separate yourself from them and be an observer of them instead of be taken away by them, like being in this hurricane. You're expanding. You're aware, there's an awareness. When you're in a room with some people, you're completely aware of what's going on. When you're driving on the street or walking on the street, you go to places, there's a different quality. You're aware of what's going on. You're not sleeping. When you're hearing about the world affairs, you're not reacting to it. It doesn't have the grip it used to have on you before. You're kind of getting freed. This spider web that we were stuck into it's getting cut. You're beginning to free yourself, where you're in this process. Just be patient, do the work, be quiet, take time, spend time by yourself in the nature. Take time being by yourself, away from the distraction, the noise pollution, the mind pollution, emotional pollution of other people. And then you just keep expanding. And things will come. Wisdom comes. It reveals itself to you. The communication with the higher self, the communication with the one, the intelligence, it gets stronger. Okay, I have a comment here. Okay, so somebody says, you say it appears that way a lot. I mean, if something then happened you had intentions for and you got, is it because of grace? Okay, yeah. So we have a question, we have a comment here. I mean, if something then happened you had intentions for and got it, is it because of grace? Yes, it's all grace. Everything is grace. The good is grace, the bad is grace, your intentions are grace, your desires are grace. There's nothing outside of grace. Nothing ever existed outside of God, outside of grace. Nothing will ever exist outside of grace. Grace is everything. And those of us who are coming to awakening, it is grace that reveals itself to us. It reveals itself. It's like it's opening the curtain and it shows herself to herself. It reveals itself to itself. Knowing that and staying in this place is tremendous amount of comfort. It takes a little bit time to settle into this, but as you're settling into it, the more you settle into it, the more comfort and inner peace reveals. It takes over your life. Cool. Well, we're coming to the end of our academy time. Let me say hello to my two friends from Iran. Hi. Nice to see you both. Welcome back. Good to
Thanks.
good to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you too. Can we talk after academy?
Yeah,
Marcia?
yes, we can talk. No problem.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, just yeah. So we're a couple of things. I won't have the academy next week. So so our next academy is going to be the following Wednesday. I think next Wednesday is the 18th. So the next academy is going to be 25th, I believe. That's if you're welcome to contact me. You can always write an email to me. My email is info@zarathustra.tv. My social media pages are Zarathustra 5D, and my website is zarathustra.tv. Those of you who are connecting with me on through our system, the Zoom, we're going to be sending you a copy of this video as well as our podcast. Yeah, the copy of this video is going to be on YouTube channel, and we also chop them down to 10-minute videos minus the meditation, and we'll put them on our YouTube channel. A copy of this is going to go on our Facebook channel too. It's nice to see you all, and I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Namaste. Thank you for being with me. God bless.